Howdy folks, welcome back. It's time for unboxing 3. However, on a quick side note before I get into that, I had a chance to examine 2 of the items that I previously opened out of the shipping containers. The first was this book, which I bought for 100 yen and did not know what it was. I took a good look and realized that this is actually something very, very interesting. This is actually a history of Japanese television broadcast anime. It's television anime chronicle from Tetsuo Adam all the way up to Attack Number 1. The only flaw that I see in this book is that the anime titles in this are not listed chronologically, but rather listed alphabetically. Now, it's neat to be able to see black and white pictures of old shows. For example, this has photos of Kaito Pride, which is a 67, I think it was 1967, anime series that I've never actually even seen any images of. It's one that was practically completely unknown to me. So it was neat to see images of some of these relatively lost vintage anime shows. There was also some uncertainty, at least for me, about what this was, so I opened this up. This turns out to be an empty binder for vertical lyrical Nanoha bookmarks. So, not especially useful to me, but again, it was only 50 cents before the shipping cost. So, let's see what's in box number 3. And we can get fancy and use a stylish knife, or we could actually use something practical for the appropriate job. So, for those of you that have not watched the previous videos, I will reiterate while I'm opening this that the total merchandise cost of all 6 boxes was about $450 US. I'm not a wealthy guy, but considering I only do this once every year or 2, I saved up money to do this. Because I misestimated the shipping size of this order, the express shipping cost more than the merchandise itself cost. However, it did get here from Japan in 3 days. So, let's take a look at what's in here. And already I can see from the very top, actually 2 of these items are pretty interesting ones. I don't know how many fans will be aware of the Stray Little Devil manga series. This is a short, cute, but very, very obscure manga series, I believe from the late 90s or early 2000s. This was published in America. I should probably look this up, but it's over here somewhere. I believe that this was published by Comics One in America. However, the fact is, when I saw that there was an actual figure based on the protagonist from Stray Little Devil, I thought, good lord, how obscure is that? This is a figure that is so tremendously unheard of that I would never even have guessed that an item like this exists. So since I did actually read the Stray Little Devil manga 20 years ago, and I really enjoyed it, when I saw that this was available for $6, I decided, yeah, I really want to own this because it's from a title that I'm familiar with, that I enjoyed, and it's just one of these tremendously obscure and odd novelty items that I find really, really intriguing. I also found this item to be particularly interesting. This I will actually likely give to a friend. I have a friend who is a enthusiast for both Japanese vintage media and also plastic model kits. He's also a big fan of 50s era sci-fi. This, as you can see, it's a little rough shape, but this is a vintage Bogart Toy Gun. I'm not even sure. I assume it's assembled. Let's take a look inside it. No, it is brand new and comes disassembled, so it is actually a kit. So I'm sure that I find this neat, and I'm not even a fan of this type of merchandise. So I'm sure that my best friend will really, really find this fascinating. This was 800 yen, so for reference, a little under $8. So I'm sure that he'll enjoy me passing that along to him. This did turn out to be the size I anticipated it was. I have had one of the two Sakura Taisen 4 figure. Actually, wait a moment. I think the one I have is actually Sakura Taisen 3. I'd walk by it every day, and it's become sort of second nature to me, so I don't consciously pay attention any longer. However, I thought to myself when I was ordering, oh, this is the pair for the figure I already have, and this figure was only 200 yen. So I figured that, why not? For the price, I'll pick this up and have a complete set of both girls. When I ordered this, I was not sure if this was this size, like small size, like 5-inch perhaps, or if this was the larger 8 or 9-inch figure. But clearly this is the, I don't know, what, probably 8-inch or so figure. And again, at $2, I'm very happy to add that to my collection. I did purchase a number of, I think, 3. Alright. I believe I picked up 3 lyrical Nanoha Gashapon trading figures, because these figures, when assembled, are actually about 2.5 inches tall, so they're fairly sizable, and they're pretty cute girl figures. They are pretty solid, because just the two of these actually weighs a lot more than you might anticipate for their size. But once again, I mentioned that these were 100 yen a piece. I imagine that domestically at a convention, if you found them at still retail new price, you'd probably be looking $10, $11 a piece. Discounted, you might find them, if you're fortunate, maybe $5. But I figured that these are the kind of items that I can mark up to $5 or $6 at this month's Necronomicon convention and see if I can perhaps sell these. I am not a tremendous... I'm an English teacher, so I'm very conscious of my phrasing, and because I now associate the word tremendous with our current president, and I really excessively and redundantly used that adjective on my previous video, I'm trying not to use it this time, so excuse me for rephrasing, that I am not a very enthusiastic or knowledgeable or experienced fan of the Touhou franchise. I have watched some of the Manpuku Jinja. I think I've watched 5 or 6 of the Manpuku Jinja Dojinshi anime, and a handful of others. So I do know enough to know that Marissa and Alice... Is it Alice? No, it's Raymond. Marissa and Raymond are largely considered the primary characters. These are, I guess you could call them, the Ken and Ryu of the Touhou franchise. And because Touhou is cute, and because it's so tremendously prolific, I was really intrigued to find out that Mandarake itself produces 2 sets of original Touhou figures. The other set of figures features girls that I'm not familiar with. However, since these are the main characters, I believe, yes, this set of original Touhou figures is 463 yen. I considered buying multiples of these to potentially resell, but I ended up only just buying 1 set for my own collection. But I think that these are really, really neat, and they're probably not very well known because they're manufactured and only distributed exclusively by Mandarake. I am a fan of the Super Blackjack franchise, and particularly its mascot character, Rio. Perhaps you can see the Rio here that may or may not be within camera. However, this particular Rio is one that I purchased with the intention of taking to the Necronomicon convention, potentially to resell. That is, if anyone decides to make me an offer on it or anyone decides to purchase it. There was the price. What did I pay for this? This one was 500 yen, so cheap enough that I anticipated I'd be able to mark this up to maybe $15 and then see if anybody negotiates me down on it. let's see, do I have both of them in here? Yes. I'm not sure how many fans these days remember Kannagi. Back in the day, Kannagi was very heavily promoted as one of the big breakout series, and it turned out really not to be quite the hit that I think its studio expected or anticipated it would be. However, that's not to say that Kannagi is a bad show. I quite enjoyed it. But it's not one that I was ever especially devoted to. It's not one that I collected merchandise from. However, when I found out that I could get both Nagi and Zange in official licensed Good Smile Nendoroid figures for, again, both combined for less than half of the cost of one contemporary new Nendoroid figure, I decided, yeah, I really like these figures. I like Nendoroid figures. I like Kannagi. So I believe both of these combined were $22. So at that price, I'm really happy to put both of the Magic Spirit sisters from Kannagi into my permanent personal collection. I also, while I was browsing Mandarake, realized that I did not have the Nendoroid Churia-san. Now, I think in order to be frugal, a number of years ago, I had instead bought the miniature smoked cheese Churia-san set, which includes a Nendoroid Petite Churia-san. However, I did not actually have the full-size, non-petite Nendoroid Churia-san. So, when I realized that I did not have one, and discovered that I could get one for 1,500 yen, I decided, yeah, I really like the Churia-san franchise. For those of you that aren't familiar with this is Tsuruya. Her name is spelled with a T, as in like crane, Tsuruya. She is from the Suzumiya Haruhi franchise. However, a doujinshi artist spun off a super deformed parody of her called Churia-san, CH. And she is a big Dixie and is obsessed with loaves or chunks of smoked cheese, which is up here in the top corner. There's her smoked cheese. Churia-san did get an anime web series on YouTube. So, as again, I mentioned, I really love Churia-san. So when I realized I did not have the Nendoroid, I decided I have to finally get one of these. You can perhaps already tell from my tastes that I really appreciate unusual or novel or unexpected anime figures, anime merchandise. For example, Sailor Moon Buff Ray Aspirin. So, I know that trains are tremendous. There, I used it again. Trains are super popular in Japan. So this is a Tendo Musume figure. In other words, a train girl figure. So it's an original figure of a girl wearing a train conductor outfit. This was 400 yen. As an example of both Japanese culture and anime culture, the Tendo Musume Limited Rapid Extra figure struck me as something very uniquely and interestingly Japanese, which is why this will be staying in my permanent collection. I am not a very aggressive or active collector of ball-jointed or traditionally articulated action figures. Back in the late 70s and early 80s, of course, I collected Star Wars counter action figures, and after about 1985 or 86, I largely stopped collecting traditional action figures. However, when I was keeping an eye on the new editions that had just come into the Mandarake store, I saw this Revoltech Saber come in at a price of only 400 yen. Now, I'm sure that those of you that are familiar with anime toys know that Revoltech figures are moderately pricey. The box on this one, you may or may not be able to see, is a little bit yellowed. It has been opened, the tape on both top and bottom. So the box is what Japanese people consider heavily worn. However, when I consider that I only paid $4 plus shipping for this, I'm hoping to take this to the Necronomicon convention, perhaps put $20 on it and see if I get a bite, or perhaps something close to that. Because I imagine, without having looked this up, that $20, even with the age of this figure, is still probably a pretty good deal. But time will tell, of course. Here is a Hayate no Gotoku second season figure of Maria? Am I correct? I think this is Maria. This figure, I can tell from the reminder price tag, was 300 yen. You can see that it's a sizable figure of Maria in her normal maid outfit, but also wearing tag ears, doing her nya cat pose. So this is a figure that I figured that I could put up for sale at this Necronomicon convention coming up in 2 weeks, and hopefully, possibly make, if not some profit on it, at least enough to break even, because, as I mentioned, pricing didn't quite work out the way I anticipated, but certainly a very nice figure for $3. Traditionally, I've found at the Necronomicon and other local conventions that I sit in on as a dealer, which are very few and very, very small, Evangelion figures are still very, very popular, or at least here in central West Florida. Evangelion figures are still very popular. Now, I could have overloaded on EVA figures, but I wanted to make sure that every figure I bought was one that I wouldn't mind keeping in my own collection if I wasn't able to sell it. I don't have a figure of Mari, so that's why I decided I would buy this Mari figure, because it's even bigger than I anticipated it would be, and this one is only 400 yen. Now, looking at this, there is a bend, which you may not be able to even see. There is a bend in the top flap of the box. There is a tear you might be able to see here in the top of the box. The bottom corner has some very, very minor wear and tear. Actually, I guess both bottom corners have very, very minor wear and tear. Mandarake had two of this figure. One of these was considered in better condition and was 600 yen. This one was considered in lower condition and was therefore 400 yen. So this gives you an illustration of just how fanatic Japanese collectors are about price and about condition. So because this was considered heavily damaged, it was reduced to only $4. Whereas to me, especially for someone that's going to take it out of the package and display it, this is a perfectly good figure. I mentioned that I adore collecting very odd, unusual anime figures, which is why I was really excited to find a Doraemon electric toothbrush. Now that I look at this in detail, I realize that the Doraemon figure is actually the charging stand for the toothbrush. So the toothbrush sits inside Doraemon's head, rather than in his pocket. But the mere fact that I have a Doraemon electric toothbrush, which was 800 yen? Yeah, 800 yen. I would have been happier had this been 500 yen or less, but I think that this is just a really neat item, because again, similar to Fist of the North Star eye drops, or Sailor Moon buffering aspirin, or Shingeki no Kyojin, or Lupin III shaving razors, a Doraemon electric toothbrush is just a really uniquely novel Japanese collectible, which is what makes it very appealing and attractive to me. I'm pleasantly surprised by this fake Last Encore figure. This is one that I did not expect to be as large as it appears to be. This is a figure I expected to be in the sub 5-inch range. I expected this to be about a 4-inch figure. Judging by the size of the box, this is probably an 8 or 9 inch figure. This busty, scarred, gun-wielding, let's see, rider. I've watched some of the Fate franchise, but I'm not a devoted follower, so this particular character is not one I'm familiar with. However, considering that this figure was 300 yen, it is one that I'm hoping to be able to go to the Necronomicon convention in 2 weeks, and if not sell for a profit, at least sell to break even. I seem to be running out of space, however, I'm also near the end of the box. So, the next item was a Heavy Gear figure. Heavy Gear from 3 years ago? Folks, you may be able to tell that when I spout this kind of anime trivia, I am literally doing this out of the top of my mind. I don't have cue cards, I don't have any reminders on this, so therefore I don't remember exactly how long ago Heavy Gear aired. Heavy Gear was a show I did not watch. I watched the first episode, and I thought that it was vaguely interesting that it revolved around a giant rolling ball mecha. However, I'm not a huge mecha person, and the show didn't really grab my interest. However, considering that this UFO catcher figure of the protagonist, Baby Magnum, no, that's the, Baby Magnum was the robot. I apologize, military, alright. I don't think it says what her name is, and I don't recall. But the point is that this was 300 yen. Once again, this is a figure that is probably larger than I anticipated, because this is another one that I thought would come in at the 4-inch size. But this is clearly a bit bigger than I expected, which contributes to the reason why it's in delivery than I anticipated. The last figure in this box is a story image figure. These came out, if I am correct, in the very late 90s, or no, it probably would have been the early 2000s. I have 2 of these because I think they're just a gorgeous, gorgeous figure. If I recall correctly, I would have to look this up, but I believe this is the Tora Noana color exclusive variant. These figures, because they are such lovely figures, still routinely command $50 or more on the internet. So I am hoping to take this one to the Necronomicon convention in 2 weeks and put $25 or $30 on it. Perhaps someone will pay that, perhaps someone will make an offer and will negotiate. But this one was 1,000 yen. So at 1,000 yen, I figured this was definitely a worthwhile investment. And as I've said, even if it doesn't sell, I will happily keep it, because I have 2 others, but I don't think I have this particular color variant. So the last items in this box, or actually, there are 2 items. One, I think we can probably guess what this is, because I mentioned in a previous recording that I had ordered multiples of the Kimi no Nawa, Your Name postcard sets. So that is what this is. This is a second set of Makoto Shinkai's Your Name movie postcards. Once again, these were 50 cents per set. And then the last item in this box is the first published appearance of the Risky Safety manga by Rei Omishi. Some of you may be aware that AnimeNation, via its subsidiary AN Entertainment, licensed the Omishi Magical Gekijo Risky Safety anime television series. It was our first license. I was relatively extensively involved in that license, as I was in AN Entertainment's 2 subsequent licenses. I am still completely as proud of and as confident in our licensing choices as I ever was. as demonstrated by the fact that I am still a very devoted Risky Safety fan. So when I realized that I could get the first appearance of Risky Safety for a mere $3, I decided I really, really wanted this for my personal collection. So that's what's in this box. I hope that you've enjoyed taking a look at these new items as much as I have, and I hope that you'll tune back in again tomorrow when we open up another box and see what's in it. So, I'll see you then.